welcome again to Youthful Solutions. I am Tanya Global. And so today I try to respond to the emails that I get. Some of you are asking for some pretty detailed information. I would say send me another email to see how we can set up a consultation for those, because I just want to do videos that are more short and just sharing, not going into in-depth problem solving that requires work. And so one of the things that I want to talk a little bit about is continue to talk about is crime and violence, based on one of the emails I got. One of the things I've learned in youth work and engaging with young people, families, and communities is that you have to sometimes deconstruct ideas, the way we define things, because sometimes the way we define things limits our abilities. It limits our ability to engage with others, because it's like we go in with a preconceived idea. And that's the same thing with young people. We go in with preconceived ideas about young people, about the issue, especially if we're responding from a problem focus, what we call a reactive response. If we are responding reactively, we go in with that mindset of that we understand and not going to understand, not going to explore. And so sometimes we have to deconstruct ideas like crime and violence, because for some young people, what they're doing is not criminal. For some young people, let's say young people that are heavily involved in gangs, and these gangs have mushroomed and ballooned based on the erosion of support systems for young people in terms of family, in terms of community, in terms of social activities that probably generations before used to engage in. And so in the absence of those, or in the diminishing of those realities for young people, you have the gang phenomena coming about. And the gang phenomena is providing that love and belongingness. It's providing that opportunity for experience and fun. It's providing for our basic needs. It's providing opportunities. So it becomes this source, and it becomes something that they are very connected to. They're very entrenched in. It's something that has raised a lot of them. They are cultured. It is a part of their culture. And so when the gang culture becomes criminalized, and we know there is criminal activity involved with gang life, some gang life actually, but when older generations compare the life and the trends of young people to their own, and then they see these stark differences that they then criminalize beyond the criminality that is taking place, then we criminalize young people, and crime takes on a different definition. When crime takes on this difference in terms of definition, then how you engage them as a youth worker, how you engage them as a parent, how you engage them as a community person, a leader, teacher, a police officer changes. And so you have to engage with the construction of the idea of crime and violence. If I am a young person that is hungry and suffering, not able to meet my basic needs, and I live in an environment where there are no support systems, no social support systems, or the social support systems have been so anti my reality that I don't trust those social support systems. I'm hungry, I go in to a store or anywhere and I steal to eat. It's crime in that I committed an act against the store or against a person, but it's not criminality. Get me? This is my thinking. Because my mind, the mind behind the crime is not a criminal's mind. The mind behind the crime is a hungry person. If I am homeless and I cut a chain on a thing or sneak into an abandoned building and I sleep there, it's a crime in terms of law, but I'm not a criminal There's no criminality and no criminal intent behind me going into that building. The intent was to meet my basic needs. I was hungry, or I was homeless. I didn't have anywhere to sleep. I was trying to find a somewhat safe place to sleep. So when you are engaging with young people, you have to be very careful of how you engage them, especially your first engagement, that initial encounter. You have to be very careful of how you present your views on these concepts, because it could make the difference between a connection and a further disconnection. And so that's why I always caution youth workers, be careful. Don't go off and engage young people if you are not equipped to. Don't engage in certain issues if you yourself, if you have not deconstructed and reconstructed a proper view. I love Paulo Freire. He is the father of, informal learning and a lot of youth development and youth work and how we engage young people as an informal learning approach is based on his work. And what he says is we're all at this state of naive consciousness. We're all naive. We're all at this state of naive, especially people who are coming from oppressive systems. We are at this state of naive consciousness where whatever we see and think, you will believe in it, but it's not real. And the only way to get to a state of critical consciousness, and that's why you see we do things like reflective practice, where as a youth worker, you journal and write, talk with another youth worker, be supervised to talk about the experiences you're having as a practitioner. So you can reflect, become critical. So he says, when you engage with that naivety, that naive state of consciousness, you can then become critically conscious. And critically conscious is not a way to become critical or to become a critic or to criticize, but to be able to deconstruct these concepts, these definitions, these labelings that we have, and be able to reconstruct more true, something that is more truthful of reality. So then you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. So that's what's happening with a lot of young people. They are just disconnecting and they are just throwing out adults. They're just throwing out social systems and institutions. They just don't want to have nothing to do with it. And we see all across the world, there are less and less people voting. Voter turnout is less and less. Jamaica just had a local government election and it was less than 30% of the electorate. And remember, a lot of people don't even get enumerated and go on the voters list. So that is already a limited representation of the people. And then from those who are registered, less than 30% voted. And it's less and less every year. Why? People are disillusioned. Young people normally vote first time because it's like a rite of passage, especially for people who were once enslaved. Young people see voting as a rite of passage to the adult life. And so that first vote, a lot of politicians normally, they maximize. That's when they're talking about youth issues. They're talking about a lot of youth issues at that time because they want to get that youth vote out there. But after that, a lot of people get disillusioned about voting. And so we want to really zone into that. We want to really be able to understand that we have to get from the state of naive consciousness. So we have to deconstruct the way we view things. And we're working with young people. And if we don't do that, we really don't gain their respect. We really don't come across as authentic because we are just reverberating. We're just, we're just saying the same old thing. We are not showing them that we have engaged consciously with the reality and reality. And that's what a lot of young people feel. And so in my work, I have learned to really deconstruct. I'm a deconstructor. I deconstruct everything. That's why I was perceived to be so rebellious. And when I become a part of anything, Christianity, spirituality, the first thing I do is deconstruct everything. I don't go in to prove it as right. I go in to prove it as wrong. I go in to deconstruct it so that I can reconstruct it in greater truth. And that's something that youth workers, parents, anybody working with young people, you have to be able to do. You have to be able to deconstruct and reconstruct things. And so I want to encourage you in your work with young people to do that. And remember, I am Tanya Global, and this is Youthful Solutions, and we are having a conversation on deconstruction, and it's the way of life for me. So thank you again for listening. I am Tanya Global.